start your careers at the age of 22. And you'll work until, say, around 65 years of age. That's 43 years of work. And imagine you're working about 50 weeks a year, and you multiply that, you're having 9-hour work days, so about 45 hours a week. That's almost 100,000 hours of work. 96,750 hours to be exact. That's a lot of hours of work. And I recently read an article that 80% of people around the world don't enjoy their jobs. They don't like going to work. 80%. That's a sad state of affairs. But what if you were part of that 20%? That 20% that just loves their job. That 20% that gets excited and feels a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning for going to their job. How would that impact your health? How would that impact your relationships? How would that impact your overall well-being? But how do you even start to figure out what you want to do for those 100,000 hours? Sitting in your seats now, how do you even start to think, what do I want to do for those 100,000 hours of my life? Well, it started for me on a football pitch when I was about 4 years old. This little boy was not thinking about what career he's going to have, what job he's going to do. This little boy was only thinking about what the next game, or when the next game of football is going to be, how many goals he's going to score, and how excited his parents are going to be every time he scores a goal. But then how did this little boy end up making his passion his profession? Well, it all starts with planting a seed. And I clearly remember when my seed was planted. The year is 1995, and I'm lying in bed in my home in Huntington Beach, California. And my mom is shaking me, "Beta, Neel, wake up. It's time to go see Bob Taniguchi." See, Bob Taniguchi was my highly expensive career counselor that my parents had hired to help me figure out what I'm going to do in my life. So I reluctantly get out of bed. I get into our blue Hyundai Elantra, and we drive down the 405 freeway. We took down to Laguna Beach to Bob Taniguchi's office. I walk in the door, and Bob Taniguchi is standing there. He's excited to see me. "Hey, Neel, today's a big day." "Yes, I know, Bob." "Neel, I have your career aptitude test results in my hand today. I'm going to tell you, or you're going to find out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. What professions are suited for you." And he gave me the envelope, or the package. And I sat down, and my heart started beating. Because I realized that whatever is in that packet is actually what I'm meant to be doing, what I'm going to be doing for those 100,000 hours. So I open it up, and I look at it, and he says, "Read them out." So I read out the first profession that I'm meant to be doing. "Accountant." And then I look at the next one, and I not so enthusiastically say, "Investment banker." And then I look at the next one, and I kind of mumble out, "Market research analyst." My mom quickly grabs the envelope and packet and says, it starts looking for engineer and doctor, because that's what all the Gujaratis were doing in California at the time. But she sadly didn't see that either. So we put the packet down, and I retreat back in my head. I'm no longer in Bob's office. I'm now back in Denmark, in Europe, playing in a football tournament that I just returned home from, where I'm playing with footballers from all over the world. And I'm thinking how much fun I had back in Europe playing football. And Bob snaps me out of it. "Neel, which of these 3 professions calls to you? Which one do you want to do in your life? Which one should we work on together now?" And what comes out of me even surprised myself. I said, "Bob, I don't want to do any of these 3. I just want to work in football." And my mom and Bob just started laughing. They just started giggling. But at that moment, something changed inside of me. A seed was planted that completely took over my life. So what happens to a seed when it's planted? What do? You water it. You water it and you water it. You don't know what it's going to turn into, but you just water it. So I watered my seed. As soon as I walked out of Bob's office, I knew something had changed. I watered my seed by talking to everyone who would listen about what it would be like to work in sports, telling everyone that I wanted to work in sports. I watered it by deciding to go to UC Santa Barbara to study business, but also studying sports management. I watered it a little bit more by making sure every internship that I did it connected to sports. And then I watered it a bit more, traveling across the country to New Jersey to study and get my MBA in sports management. And then I watered it a bit more by going after a job that was really important to me in the sports organization in New York City, which all ultimately led to my first job in sports. Now, I was going through my career always thinking that I'm one of the lucky ones, one of the few people in the world that can make his passion his profession. But as I went through life, I realized that no, of those 80%, so many of them can actually make their passion their profession. So many people can actually do what they love as long as they take some time to check in with themselves, to see what it is that they want to do in their lives. And it's all about planting a seed. So how do you decide which seed to plant? And that's what's available to you. It starts with the formula. This formula is something that I've lived my life by. This formula is something that can allow each of you in this room and each person in the world an opportunity to actually do what they're passionate about, to make sure those 100,000 hours are incredible and extraordinary. So it starts with superpower, plus your area of deep interest, packaged together with how you want to contribute to the world equals your ideal career pathway. Now let's start with superpower. What is a superpower? It's a gift. It's something that you're good at, something that you might be a little bit better than others or extraordinary at. And I'm sure each person in this room has a different superpower. And that superpower could be something like you can listen very well. You can make people feel at home when they're in your presence. It could be that you can build small appliances incredibly well, or bowl, or juggle incredibly well. Or it could be something like cooking desserts or baking. Every single person probably in the world has a different superpower, something that they're good at. My superpower was very clear. I could make anybody excited about something that I loved. Since I was a little kid, my birthday parties had more people at them than anybody else. Why? Because I would always have them at some cool place, and 2 weeks before, I would just go tell everyone how great it's going to be. And no matter what, half of my elementary school ended up at my birthday party. Now, I know it seems simple, but it's not. This is some of my best friends these are some of my best friends from California. Many years later, when I moved to Brooklyn, New York, 6 months afterwards, 8 of my best friends end up moving to New York City. But not just any part of New York City, Brooklyn. But not just any part of Brooklyn, within a 1-kilometer radius of my home. And the reason why they did that is for that 6 months' time that I was living in Brooklyn and talking to them, every time I'd speak to them, I'd say how great and cool my neighborhood in Brooklyn is. So 8 of those friends moved there, and many of them are still there 17 years later. So my superpower was clear. I combined those two, and then you get to the last one, how you want to contribute to the world. Now, this is the one that's the hardest to figure out, but it's actually the most important. Because if you live a life of service to the world, your life is just going to be better. It's that simple. If you live a life of service to the world, your life will just be better. And so, what does that mean? It means what area of the world do you want to contribute to? How do you want to make a difference? What's something that touches, moves, and inspires you that when you see it being done out in the world? And you can figure that out. It's incredibly important that you combine that with your career pathway. Now, what I wanted to do to contribute to the world was very easy. Football had made such a difference in my life. It was what gave me my identity. It's what gave me my self-confidence. Football is what gave me my physical fitness. Football is what gave me a lot of friends and incredible memories of scoring goals, incredible growth of coming up from defeat. Football had given me a lot of travel experiences. Football had done a lot for my mother and father, who were integrated into American society through my football matches and our travel together. So what did I want to do? I wanted to ensure that more people in the world got to enjoy this beautiful game. So what did I put this whole formula together, and like many of you sitting in this room, I had to write my university entrance essay. I decided to write my essay on this formula. I wrote it about how football has made a difference in my life and how I want to pay it forward by allowing more people to be connected to this beautiful game. And lo and behold, the next morning, when I picked up the Los Angeles Times newspaper, Major League Soccer was announced as a league that's starting the next year in 1996. And it was so perfect for me. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is my pathway. And I want to stop right here and say one thing. What I'm not talking to you guys about is a dream job. A dream job is very difficult to say at this age or at any age. Because a dream job means that you have to know what attributes that job has that will be perfect for you for then or the rest of your life. It's like asking you to figure out who your dream life partner should be right now. Your dream life partner is somebody you will live with the rest of your life. It's very difficult to know the attributes you're looking in that boy or girl to know that that person is the person you want to be with the rest of your life. What I'm talking about is an ideal career pathway. Ideal career pathway is not a destination. It's your directional signage. It's what guides you in the right path to figure out where you want to go. So after I wrote that essay, after Major League Soccer became part of my GPS system, I ultimately got the job with Major League Soccer as coordinator of fan development in 2002. And my job actually was traveling around the United States talking about the beautiful game. And I did that for 7 years. And it was incredible because I was living my purpose for those 7 years. After that, I decided to move to India. I came here in 2009 because I wanted to broaden my formula, broaden my mission. I wanted more people in India to have the opportunity to be connected to this beautiful sport, which is what I've done. And in these 15 years of work, I've been able to work with some of the biggest football clubs in the world. So, I've been able to do something that I love completely, which is running my own football club, something that when I would go back and play PlayStation with my brother and play football, this is something that I would completely want to do. And spend time with some of my childhood heroes and spend quality time talking about how big the game can be. And now I've become a voice for football in the world. I've become somebody that actually gets to talk about the policy around football and how to make it bigger and how to impact more people in the world. And it's been an absolutely amazing ride. But more than all the professional achievements that I've achieved, I'd say the best part about living my formula is that I wake up every morning very excited for the day, excited what challenges and opportunities that I might have throughout the day. And I go to bed in the evening knowing that I'm living my purpose. And it feels great to live like that. And when you do that, you live a life worth living, and it's absolutely beautiful. Now, there might be questions or doubts when listening to something like this. One of those questions might be, what if I like many things? What if I have many passions? How could I limit it to just one? Now, I don't see that as a challenge. I see that as an opportunity. My passion was football, so I chose football. You might have many passions, but many passions is okay. That means that you have many opportunities to make this formula work for you. And that doesn't mean that because you have many passions, you should pick something that's outside of your realm of interest. It means that just keep looking at how this formula can work for you. Now, the second part is that a question might come up, what if I want to make money? And what if my passion in my area of interest, there's no money, and I need to look out for my family and myself? But I don't believe that at all. Think about it. I chose to work in professional soccer in the US, a country where soccer is one of the 5th or 6th most popular sports back then. Then I moved to India in 2009 to work in professional football, a country where cricket is here and all other sports are here. But for these last 15 years, money has never been an issue. Money has always followed me. Now, why would money follow me? Because when you're living your formula, you're actually nourishing your mind, body, and soul on a regular basis. And when you're nourishing your mind, body, soul on a regular basis, you're oozing with passion. You're oozing with enthusiasm. You're oozing with likability. When you're oozing with likability and passion, what happens when that employer is sitting across from you? What happens when that university admissions person is sitting across from you? They're not just looking at your CV. They're not just looking at all the things you've done in your life. They're getting a feel for who you are. They're feeling some vibe off you. And when they feel some vibe of somebody who wants to see, who sees this as an opportunity to contribute, rather than an opportunity to just get a job and make a living, they want to hire you. And when they hire you and you get there, you realize that, hey, this is fantastic. I'm getting paid to do something I love. You do it better and better every day. And that's just how you end up being successful and how money starts to follow when you're living inside of this formula. I'll give you an example of somebody that's very dear to my heart, my father. Now, this is an example of how if you don't follow the formula completely, you're missing out, you're cheating yourself a bit. My father has lived an extraordinary life. He's grown up in a village in Gujarat. He moved to the US in the late 1960s to get his master's in automotive engineering with a dream to work for Ford so he can bring all his 8 brothers and sisters from India to the US, which he did. But when he graduated with his master's in automotive engineering, and he loved cars as well, so he had his passion was clear. But what happened was that he wasn't attuned with his superpower at that point. And what he did was he took a job at Ford, which was in more the building of the cars department. And he ended up working for 45 years with some of the top automobile industries or companies in the world building cars. But what was going on as I was growing up with my father and as I lived with him and watched him, I was always noticing that he was sketching and that he was most happy when he was silently drawing. And yet he never talked about his passion for art. But when he retired about 6-7 years ago, I bought him an easel and a paint set. And I said, Dad, during your retirement, do one thing for me. Just draw. Just paint. See, because I think that you have some gift, some superpower, and some talent with drawing and painting. And he has, and he's painted probably 40 or so different types of landscape paintings over the last many years of his retirement. And I was just in California over the summer, and one of our heart-to-heart conversations that my father and I had was about what would have happened if my father still continued to work in the automobile industry, but chose design of the cars rather than building the cars. How would that have impacted his health? How would that have impacted his well-being, his relationships, his general happiness? And he still thinks about that today. So I don't want any of you in this room to ever have missed that opportunity to live a life that you love because you're not attuned with your superpower. And now the last thing I'll say, which is the most important, is that this is a 100,000-hour road trip that you're going on and preparing for. So just like if tomorrow you're preparing for a road trip to Lonavala or to Alibag or to Goa or to Dharamshala, you would have fun doing it. You would get excited about all the places you might see along the way. You would get excited about who's going to come on the road with you. You would get excited about all the different things that you might even imagine running into in the adventure that's ahead of you. It's no different than this 100,000-hour road trip that you're called your career. As you prepare for your career, have fun. Have fun doing some soul searching, figuring out your superpower, figuring out your passion, figuring out where you want to contribute and how you want to contribute to the world. Have fun as you prepare, but then also have fun when you're on it. When you're in your career, take risks. Meet people, build relationships, dance a little bit, just like you would do on a road trip. You dance, you sing, you stop out and get pav bhaji. You do so many things. Do the same thing in your careers. Now, at any point in a road trip, if you decide you don't want to go to Goa anymore, hey, why don't we go over to Mumbai instead? It's okay. You take it, you stop on the side of the road, you assess what you're up to, and you go in a different direction. The same thing is with your careers. If for any reason you're on a particular ideal career pathway and you want to stop, it's okay. Assess yourself. Do a little bit of soul searching then. Get your GPS rejigged and move in a different direction. And I promise you, if you live this formula, and you will have a life that is worth living. Thank you.